It's Newsweek On Air. I'm Warren Levinson of AP Network News.
I'm David Alpern of Newsweek.
What's dishonest?
When Gregory Peck parachutes behind enemy lines, you think that's really Gregory Peck?
That book that Eisenhower wrote, a ghostwriter wrote it. Nobody cares.
It's not like we'd be giving you the answers. Just because we know, you still know.
Right. It's not like you're putting me on the show or Al and pretending to be some sort of intellectual. I mean, you have put in years of study and erudition.
I'm just trying to imagine what Kant would make of this.
I don't think he'd have a problem with it.
It's not quite Eve and the Serpent, but that was the sound of Temptation from the new movie Quiz Show about the 1959 rigging of the TV show 21 to create great drama and make a culture hero of Columbia University instructor Charles Van Doren, whose subsequent wealth and fame turned into ostracism and shame after congressional hearings.
Quiz Show, directed by Robert Redford, is one of the most promising prospects in Newsweek's Fall Arts Preview, and we have Robert Redford along.
Welcome to Newsweek On Air.
Thank you.
What first attracted you to this story?
First of all, that it was just that, a good story. And I wouldn't really be drawn to a film if it didn't have that to begin with. I don't happen to be a supporter of the idea that you can build a film just on technical or pyrotechnics alone. So for me, storytelling is still a very big part of the equation. So it has to have a good story, which this does, or did for me anyway. And second thing would be really good characters, which it does. And when you can entwine three major characters, each one representing a different slice of the American pie, so to speak, well, then I think there's something very solid about that. And then it just also happened to be played out against a good story with good characters in conflict in very deep emotional ways, played against the backdrop of a great piece of American history, which was the television scandals of the 1950s, which a lot of the current generation doesn't know about. And if you look at just the canvas of scandals, why, it would appear to be nothing. But if you look at it in the context of what it started or what it was the genesis of in terms of where we are today, then it takes on pretty great significance. So those were the reasons, the ostensible reasons for doing it. And then inside of that were multiple issues that interested me, but I have to get into that now.
I did wonder that given some of the major ethical quagmires we've seen, like Vietnam, like Watergate, which of course you know from President's Man, Iran-Contra, whether there was any feeling that the public would see this as, what's all the hollering about?
Well, I think if you looked at it just from the standpoint of the scandal itself, by all means, but it's not to be looked at in that way. I think the audience would probably see, I certainly would hope they would see, the roots of today's problems and where it first started and how it first started, which was the control of the merchant mentality on our lives, and pretty much does control our lives. It certainly does in television. It certainly does in my industry. It is a business, and when there's business, there's money, and so money really does run our lives now more than ever, because entertainment has pervaded almost every system we have.
Including journalism, I have to say. I did wonder whether there was a kind of an unspoken warning in Quiz Show to all those would-be filmmakers that your Sundance Film Festival works so hard to encourage, to nourish. Beware the big money and the big organizations.
Yes, that's absolutely right. That there's a Faustian bargain made when money is the issue, and it is. And then greed is tied into money, and power is tied into money, and then you have all this kind of avalanche of forces that kind of key off of that first one. But there's no doubt about it that does run the show.
There's also, I wonder if there is a danger that a story like this, because of all of these big forces, feeds into what's a very currently fashionable notion of minimizing personal responsibility. Everybody seems to find some larger force to blame for almost anything they do.
Well, there's been such a continuation of this sort of erosion of public trust that goes back probably to this event through the years, from the shock of Kennedy's death, the idea that an assassination of a leader could occur in this country that way, and then going to Watergate and Iran-Contra and BCCNI and the Anita Hill here. And there's this continuing parade of a certain kind of scandal that erodes the public trust to the point where they're kind of numb. So the idea that no one seems to want to take any responsibility for this, going along with it, leaves the public with a kind of numbness about, well, what can I do about it? So what? So they take the attitude about so what? And I think, that part of it I think is unfortunate.
Some people that I've talked to find an irony in the fact that you've modified the facts of the case, especially the role of Richard Goodwin, who was then a congressional investigator, to make more dramatic a film about people whose deception was to produce a more dramatic TV show. Any thoughts on that?
Well, there was, any license taken by the film, you got to ask the question, did that change the outcome of what the end result was? And it doesn't. And of course, film is not to be confused with a documentary. I mean, it does not carry the same responsibility. You take a piece of history and you dramatize it, and that is the fictional part of film. And if you draw from the facts of a historical event, you then have that liberty. On the other hand, it is a very good issue to raise as to what, not only so much the responsibility that film carries. I think it does carry a great deal of responsibility, but as to how the public perceives it, it carries a lot of power. And I think that film has come to somehow threaten the other parts of the media in a way that I think it's almost like they fear its power, so they want to kind of try to go after the idea, well, is this authentic and so forth, and sort of mistakenly put it in the category of documentaries or news on television. When I don't think that's the idea. I know that when I did All the President's Men, there were a lot of licenses taken there, but those issues were never raised. Maybe because the press was into celebrating itself with what that. No.
I think you're right, and I think that the fact is that we in the news media have copied lots of techniques from entertainment drama. They have copied a kind of factual patina from us, and the audience is left confused as to what's real and what's fiction anymore. Let me turn the tables a little bit and talk a little bit about you and film. David Anson, in his review, says you have become one of our best cinematic chroniclers of WASP mores, establishment mores. I wonder whether a career in movies has helped you achieve that insight, or do you have to work real hard to avoid a vision that's shaped too much by Hollywood?
Well, both. I think that certainly a lot of my view comes from personal experience, and a lot of my view comes from observation, almost like social observation. And some of it is shaped by what I've experienced being a public figure and being stereotyped, or that you feel the effort to stereotype you as a kind of public figure when you want to resist that and you don't want to be closed in a box, and you like to think there's more variety to you than maybe someone wants to think. So you have to fight against that. And then there's just the issue of the fact itself that you're attempting to observe the culture around you, and how you can do some of that objectively, and then some of it has to be I think a stronger image comes when you can do it both subjectively and objectively.
In terms of movie making, what lessons have you learned as an actor that have been most valuable in your work now as a director?
To listen and to pay a lot of attention. To me, that's the most valuable thing an actor, assuming an actor has the gift of skill and the gift of mimicry, or just the gift to be able to perform. Assuming that, not all actors do, but assuming that is so, then I would say that the most valuable thing an actor can do is pay a lot of attention and to listen.
Robert Redford, it's been a real pleasure talking with you.
Thank you.
We've been talking with Robert Redford about his new film Quiz Show, one of the fall entertainment features previewed this week in Newsweek. Thanks again.
Next, the Periscope.